Hi everyone, Tom Oz 34 with a look at your forecast discussion for August 28th, 2011. It is 5:15 in the morning here, and we've got some very, very heavy rain coming down and very, very gusty winds. I mean, the rain is torrential at this point, and the wind's probably around 50 miles per hour. Or some places even better than that. Just took a quick drive around town, where I live in Connecticut, and there is extensive tree damage, even trunks ripping off of the base there and just collapsing to the ground. So we've got some very gusty winds and just very saturated grounds. And I did a rain measurement. Picked up over 4 inches of rain in southern Connecticut, and I think we'll still have a lot more to come here, because it's supposed to continue to storm here until the 12 o'clock time frame here. So we are watching the potential for flooding. There is already flooding of low-lying areas. We may watch the potential for that flooding to extend inland as Hurricane Eileen pushes in to Connecticut. Now, the interesting thing to note here is Hurricane Eileen is barely hanging on to tropical storm status. It is currently a Category 1 hurricane, sustained maximum winds of 75 miles per hour. And you know what? 74 miles per hour is the minimum threshold that you need for it to be classified as a hurricane. So we have 75 miles per hour. I doubt it will continue to maintain that speed here as it interferes with Long Island. I think Long Island is going to weaken it somewhat. I think, Long Island may see a hurricane. It's hard to say for sure, but Long Island may see a hurricane, and then by the time it moves into Connecticut, it should be just a very strong tropical storm here. But certainly it hasn't made landfall yet. It's pouring torrentially outside right now, as I was mentioning, not only in Connecticut, but all across the basically coastal New England. That rain has extended and reached further to the north. The winds haven't quite really made it inland too much at this time, but certainly along the shoreline, those winds are howling pretty nasty. And as I mentioned, I already saw some extensive tree damage here where I live, and so hopefully that doesn't get too bad. A lot of power outages already in effect as of 5:15 this morning. I checked on the CLNP website just now. In Connecticut, you are talking about close to 500,000. That's about 600,000, or just under 600,000 people currently in the dark. And it is still dark outside right at this time. So, people, obviously most people are asleep, but it is dark outside right now, so having no power and is just rough. Now, I have power where I live, but there's numerous places here that do not have power. And when there's 600,000 people in Connecticut that have no power, and I live in Connecticut and I have power, I guess I have to consider myself very lucky, because the winds outside are pretty vigorous right now. And like I mentioned, we got a lot of rain, under very saturated grounds. We're getting a lot of trees knocked down. Merritt Parkway in Connecticut shut down for a period of time. So just incredible what we are dealing with this morning. So that is the very latest. Again, it's the Hurricane Eileen. It is likely to be classified and downgraded by the time it makes landfall in Connecticut to a tropical storm. It's not a guarantee. Now, if it is still a hurricane, it will be a very, very weak one, barely hanging on to tropical hurricane status here. But we are talking about impressive impressive weather. And then once it eventually does make landfall, I don't think, quite honestly, there will be much of a difference in the general overall weather conditions. But there will be some significant some weather here. Even inland, a lot of rain right now in Massachusetts, and eventually during the end of the day today, even places like Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, all you guys eventually are going to get some very nasty weather over the next couple hours to a certain extent. Obviously, the worst of the storm is going to be in coastal sections, but even northern interior New England, by the end of the day today into the late afternoon, early evening, if you're watching from Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, even upstate New York, the rain will reach you, and the rain will be torrential there as well. You will not have as much wind to deal with, however. Do expect some breezy conditions over there, perhaps up to tropical storm force winds, but nothing too significant. Probably nothing over 40 miles an hour by the time it gets into Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. But right now, coastal sections of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts getting pounded here. Wind gusts over 50 miles an hour. Which is not that bad. It could have been a lot worse. But that's what we're dealing with. Again, a little bit of damage, a little bit of coastal, low-lying flooding, and just torrential rain. It looks like at this point we are in the worst of the storm. And another update to follow, coming up very shortly here. Stay tuned.